Hello and welcome to this Affinity Photo tutorial, which is for the PC Mac version of Affinity Photo, and it is aimed mainly for beginners, but some other users may find it helpful as well. Now I'm going to be using this image which I've got from the stock tab and the Pixabay, and I just typed in candle and selected the image. Now this is how I got to this image. So the point of this tutorial is to sort of have a look at the differences between levels and curves, and it's more really not so much differences, it's more the similarities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this half black and white circle icon down here, and I'm going to open a levels adjustment, and then I'm going to do the same thing again, clicking on that icon and select curves. So we have one of each of the adjustments open, and I'm just going to click on this tick here to hide the curves layer from this project for the moment, and select the levels adjustment. So I'll double click on this to reopen the levels panel. Now at the top here we have the histogram, which shows you the distribution of the pixels in this particular picture. The histogram will change with whatever picture and whatever changes you make to the picture. And then below that we have the black levels, which will sort of make things lighter, and the white levels, if you move it, will make things lighter, darker I should say. So the black level starts on 0, the white level starts on 100. The gamma will allow you to alter either lighter or darker the midtones, and that starts on 1. Now below that we have the output black levels and output white levels, and this basically will alter the sort of from absolute black pixels, and if you move this slider it will make those black pixels lighter and paler, and the opposite one will have the pure white pixels and will make these sort of darker and grayer. So they're the main controls, and if I, for example, move the output black level to the 50% mark, and the same for the white, both on 50%, that will turn all the black pixels 50% grey and all the white pixels, or so all the pixels from white to 50% grey. So you can't see the image at all because the background of Affinity Photo is 50% grey, so it just becomes sort of invisible. But if you just nudge it one of these past that, you will then start to see the image again. So let me reset there. So if I do the same thing with the sort of normal levels adjustments, and I move this to 50%, and then the same goes for this slider here. So with both the black level and white levels on 50%, as you can see we get this sort of very garish image. And then the only sort of adjustments you then have, and you, because they're sort of on 50%, you're having no real effect with the gamma slider. So if I just close that for a second, and then we look at the curves adjustment, and let me turn that off, turn on the curves adjustment, and double click this to open this. Now this is where the sort of similarities between levels and curves will arise, because with the curves adjustment you again have this histogram showing you the distribution of the pixels in the image. And we have this line going across, and the bottom left is absolute black and the top right is absolute white pixels. Now you can click and move these nodes, and if you keep the node on the outside edge going up and down, this will be similar to using the output levels in the levels adjustment, because if I move this up to the 50% point on the left and the 50% point on the right, we have that 50% grey look where you can't see anything. So let me just reset that. So similarly, if you move and stick to the outside edge of the top and bottom, if I again put this in the 50% point there and bring this over to the 50% point here, let me just turn it off a second, turn back on the levels adjustment. So if I turn off the curves adjustment on and off, as you can see, there's like no difference between whether it's the levels adjustment or the curves adjustment. The effect is the same. Now the difference here is, let me turn this levels back on for a second. We'll open the levels adjustment and I will reset, I will reset this back to sort of a normal image. So these top two levels adjustments are the same as moving the nodes on the curves adjustment along the top and bottom edge, and the bottom two sliders are the same as moving the nodes in the curves adjustment on the left and right edge. The only sort of subtlety you have with the levels adjustment is the gamma slider, which will adjust the mid-tones. So there's sort of, it is very much like curves, but it is not as subtle as curves, because the only real subtlety you sort of have is with the gamma slider. I mean, obviously you can do the different channels, red, green and blue channels, and have sort of, again, the effects were very similar but within those channels. If I turn that off now, we'll turn the curves on and I reset this. So like I said before, you can get the same effect with the outputs by moving the left and right, the nodes on the left and right edges, and you get the same effect with the levels sliders by sticking to the top or bottom edge of this grid. Now your subtlety when it comes to sort of where the gamma slider would be is you can bend this line and wherever you want. I mean, the center point on measurement would be where the gamma slider would be, and if you bend this up and down, this would be where the gamma slider would have its effect. But you can add extra nodes and get a sort of an even sort of more subtle effect that you couldn't necessarily get with levels. Let me reset this, and again you can alter the red, green and blue levels channels like you can in levels. So they are very similar tools, but curves will give you that sort of little bit of subtlety. And another thing that you can do with curves is we have a button down here for picker, and you can click on that and you can select an area that you want to alter, sort of a colour that you may want to alter. So if for example you wanted to make this pink area over here darker or lighter, once you've got the picker, which the icon will change to a sort of target, if you click and hold down the button, you can then move up or down to alter the sort of colour or shades of that colour, either darker or lighter, and at the same time a node will be placed on the line at whatever point that pixel colour is found. So I'm going to click now and hold, and if I move this down, as you can see, that node has appeared in the line, and if I bring this down, it drags the line down as well, making that darker. If I move upwards, it will make that lighter. So let me just make this a little bit darker in that colour. So I'm now going to come over to this lighter area. Let's try this area here. So again, I will try and make this a little bit darker. So I'll click and hold and drag this down, and as you can see, we've now got another node that is sort of higher up the line, and I'll make that about there. And now I'll try for a darker area sort of over here, see if I can make this maybe a little bit lighter. So I'll click and hold here and move that area up and sort of lighter. So as you can see from this node here, that is the area where those pixels are found. That node there is this area where sort of this darker pink was found. Now is a bit, and this area here were the lighter pink colours. So you have much more subtlety with the curves than you could ever get with levels. Levels is probably easier to understand, and it's probably better, especially if you're a beginner, to sort of maybe start from there. But as you get better, you may want to sort of move over to using curves more often, because you have a much subtler effect. So that is it. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.